Mr. Bachchan has been on a tour of the city, which he didn't intend to, but he's here. As always, he never lets anyone down. Amitabh, you've done a really nice foreword to the book. Are you going to read it? Oh, lovely. Please, yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Never have the speakers that came before me been as subtle as they were regarding the word late. And I think I counted about 5 times when they mentioned late and kind of gave me a side look and saying, "You're late, buddy." I just want to clarify this. I was told that the function was at the NCPA, and when I was touching Marine Drive, my office tells me, it's actually Taj Lands End, sir. So you can imagine turning around and coming here about 15 minutes late is quite a miracle. Parikshit called one day and said, couldn't you write the foreword to this book that I'm writing on Balraj, and I readily agreed. I thought I'd just read it out because anything else that I say today would not be able to go beyond what I've already expressed. Be like Balraj Sahni. He's in the film industry, yet out of it. So advised my father, soon after my first encounter with the film world on a private visit, seeking a job. Some of my experiences were disturbing. They troubled me and gave me reason to believe that maybe I was making a mistake in my choice. But no, father was right. Balraj was the epitome of my father's vision. When he looked at you with his endearing smile, extending his arms in embrace and spoke, you felt it was your heart that spoke, not his. It was as though the air around him came from a different world, a world that embodied gentility, the goodness of nature, the resonance of divinity. And as I drive past his home in Juhu, as I often do, I cannot but look at it in despair. Time and desolation have ravaged it and added to it what did not belong to its owner. Diverse conditions are the fatalities of life, and the house symbolizes this reality. But I believe that even though appearances may change, structures may decay, the purity of the heart endures, lives, and breathes. And as Parikshit sets about putting his pen to paper to narrate his father's life, I send my heartfelt best wishes and look upon him with gratitude, for he will narrate what he needs to know about the celebrated and distinguished soul called Balraj Sahni. I profess to be an actor by profession, and some of my work-related observations guide us in our careers. When I saw Balraj on the screen, it was not the character he was portraying I saw, but only the purity of his heart. The way he moved, the way he spoke, and the way he expressed himself were unique and straight from the heart. वो जब डायलॉग बोलते थे तो ऐसा लगता था कि यही सही है. Commented a person when I asked him what he thought about Balraj as an actor. There was a refined smoothness about him in all his performances. If I could have, I would have run up to him on the screen, touched his feet, and embraced him. His cultured and literary background was evident, as I perceived during his meetings and reflective moments with my father. He always came across as one who lived life on his own terms, never derogatory about others and their beliefs, yet respectful to his own. There was a simplicity in his being, in entertaining you with a cup of tea in his home, inviting you to play a game of table tennis in the patio in his home, the gentle wave of his hand as he passed by you on his horse, ridden without any frills in Kashmir, quietly without accoutrements, climbing up to Gulmarg. I know. for I was a party to all. And every time I drive past his home in Juhu, I recall with great affection the man of immense grace and nobility, Balraj Sahni.
Thank you. You said in your foreword that he was in the industry and out of it. What do you mean by that?
This is actually given to me by my father. I was on a mission in the early years, around 68, 69, to the city of Mumbai to seek a job in the film industry. And I was asked to do a screen test, which I did, thanks to some very well-known people. I'm not going to name them now. And later on in the evening, they said, well, you know, you're here for a day. We are going out to a party. Why don't you come along? And I went along with them. And at the party, I saw things which were kind of disturbing. I mean, everyone was happy, and they were having their drinks and eating their food. And then some discussion took place between one of the celebrities and a journalist, and a fight broke out. And when I say a fight, it was actually a physical fight. You know, they were punching each other and stuff like that. And what was really amazing was that the hostess, who was also a very prominent celebrity, was unconcerned with this punch-up and was serving, what would you like to have, sir? And then just serving the food all over. And I felt this was rather odd, so I just stepped out of the house. And when I came back, I narrated this to my father and said, you know, you have to be like Balrajji. You have to be in it to get out of it.
How would you describe Balraj Sahni's acting style?
I just mentioned it. He was just, you never felt that he was performing.
Yes.
He was always so real, so simple. And as I said, when you ask somebody on the street, he said, "वो जब बोलते थे तो ऐसा लगता था कि यही सही है." That's a great compliment.
Right.
Because many of us are incapable of getting that kind of compliment from a common man on the street. And when he thinks that this is what his performance was like, then you tend to believe it.
You must have grown up under the shadow of your father.
Indeed.
Well, that brief answer doesn't give me a lead into another question. You could be more helpful.
Okay. I'm going to narrate a story then. I've said this many times before in several other events, but because you've raised this issue, I think I'll talk about it. I'm referring to a poem my father wrote. It's called Wasiyat Nama. You know, every one of us at a certain age writes a will. And I won't go into the recitation of the poem, but I'll just give you the essence. He says that, you know, in the poem, he says that, you know, a time comes in your age when your friends and well-wishers say, you know, umr kafi ho gayi hai yaar, ek wasiyat nama likh do, life ka kuch pata nahi hota hai, और जो कुछ भी देना है अपने परिवार को, बेटों को, ये सब अभी से तय कर दो, क्योंकि बेटों को भी बड़ा आजकल सामना करना पड़ता है अपने आप को साबित करने के लिए कि हाँ भाई ये मेरे पिता हैं. तो he wrote the whole thing, and one of the things he said is, look, I don't have much to give and leave behind for my children. I just have my written works, and later on in his life he used to go for a walk and pick up a stone, and he used to find an imagery in it and, you know, draw a few lines, and it would come out. And he says, these are the rocks and these poems that I have. But some of the most important thing that he said in that poem, which was that what are you going to leave behind? And he said, you know,
can you recite that bit?
Poot saput kyun dhan sanchay, poot kaput kyun dhan sanchay. And then he wrote that the last line, and he said, मेरे बेटे बेटे होने से मेरे उत्तराधिकारी नहीं होंगे. मेरे बेटे बेटे होने से मेरे उत्तराधिकारी नहीं होंगे. जो मेरे उत्तराधिकारी होंगे वो मेरे बेटे होंगे. So Parikshit is an excellent example. He is the true inheritor of his father, and therefore you are the true Uttaradhikari.
But there was one aspect of Balraj Sahni, which I would never have suspected, which comes out in the book. And I'll give you both that incident. I actually wanted Parikshit to read it, but he says a bit long. So very briefly, Balraj Sahni was very fond of swimming. And he took, how old were you when he took you into the sea?
I think about 10 maybe.
Okay, so 10-year-old Parikshit goes with his father into the sea. And the sea is very rough. And Parikshit says, I'm scared, I don't want to go into this. He says, come on, and coaxes him into the water. And then they find themselves being dragged into the sea, deeper and deeper and deeper.
The tide was going out.
Yes, the tide was going out. And this little boy, and I think anyone would have been scared. I would have been screaming. And it goes on, and Balraj Sahni is absolutely calm, and he's saying, why are you worried? The tide is going in, it'll come back, and we'll come back with it. So don't fight it, just relax. You know how to swim, and the sea makes you float, so just stay there. And they went deeper and deeper into the sea. And then finally, they find a little boat coming to rescue them. And there's an Englishman paddling a kayak. And he comes near them. And Balraj Sahni says, go away, we don't want you. So Parikshit is saying, but Dad, we must get into that boat. Someone's come to save us. And he just refuses. And when he sees it's an Englishman, he says, you Englishman, we don't want you here. You go. So of course the Englishman has some choice swear words for Indians and goes back. And these two stay in that water for 2 hours. And then the tide goes back and there they are. That must have been traumatic for you.
Yeah, I shivered.
Mike.
I thought that was the end of my life. I was petrified absolutely. And I thought Dad had finally gone mad because he started singing songs and he started floating and he started joking around. And I said, ye pata nahi kya ho gaya, Dad ko yahan mar rahe, yahan pe daddy. And then this Englishman, he came and said, come on, get into the boat, because a lot of people had collected on the seashore. We were about a mile out and they guessed that they're in trouble. So this Englishman came and I got hold of the boat immediately because I thought, God said, he said, chodo, just leave the boat. It was an order. I said, I think Dad has cracked up or something. Here is a guy who come to, sort of save us. But Dad told this fellow, he said, this Englishman, we don't need you. We can look after ourselves. Please go back. And that fellow said a lot of things about Indians. You crazy Indians, that you want to kill yourself and your son also. And yes, sure enough, we floated after that for a long while. He kept singing revolutionary songs. He was a Marxist. Mil ke chalo, mil ke chalo, mil ke chalo. Are bhai, mil ke chalo. All these sort of things. I said, yaar, kya mil ke chalo, yahan mar jayenge. And ye waqt ki awaaz hai, mil ke chalo, and all that jazz. But anyway, it was I can't tell you, if you only have to experience it, the tides during the monsoons are horrendous. When they drag you out, you can't hold on to the bottom because they just pull you out. And when it sent you back, it was like a miracle because I did start swimming a little bit. He had taught me a little bit. And it really literally threw us on the sand. We left near Palm Grove Hotel, which is called, I don't know, something else now, and came out at the creek, which is about 2-3 miles away. And then I went to sleep because I was exhausted. And I was glad that my life is saved. And Dad looked at me, smiled. He was smiling when I opened my eyes. He pulled me up and he said, "Dekho, beta." There are going to be a lot of times when these sort of situations will arise in your life. And remember, the tide always comes back. So always ride the tide, don't fight the tide. And that has helped me through a lot of many crises in life.
Well, that could have been the last lesson you learned in your life, but
I thought it was.
Balraj Sahni was a real Marxist, and he very deeply believed in the Marxist philosophy.
Absolutely, completely, utterly.
And you were talking of him singing revolutionary songs and
Mil
so
ke
on.
chalo, mil ke chalo, mil ke chalo.
But there are wonderful scenes in the book which shows his Marxist leanings. There's one of these high society parties where he comes wearing a dhoti and
Lungi kurta,
Yeah,
Punjabi style.
and he doesn't like this kind of socializing with this useless chatter and pretentious chatter. So he's constantly pulling everyone down. And then he finds a waiter who's also Punjabi. And he finds he's speaking a different kind of Punjabi from what he knows. So he gets a drink for the waiter. They sit on the floor and they have a long chat. Of course, the hostess is not very pleased. And anyway, the story goes on. I'll leave you to read it. There's also the story about shooting, where everyone has to wear jackets. Can you talk about that? You remember what I'm talking about?
Sorry. You see, I was not trained as an actor. I did my college work. I went to the institute in Moscow to study film direction and writing and editing. And I don't know, I met Nehru there. There's a separate story. I'm writing about it for you. Send it to you for perusal. And he gave me a speech, and he said that, India was, is your mother, you should go back and all that. So I came back to India full of feelings that one must serve one's motherland and all that, because the Russians really somewhere, in those days, Soviet Union, they looked down on India and I didn't like it. So I said, I must be of service. How can I be of service? As an actor, what can I do? And I really became an actor because of Dad. People thought, yeah, आदमी तो ठीक लग रहा है, थोड़ा बहुत तो सीख लिया होगा बाप से. बना दो इसको एक्टर, ले लो फिल्म में. But I made a film, a banner, a production called Balraj Sahni Productions. And I made some television serials because making films is a very tough job. And through those, I thought maybe I could serve, be of service to the country and, say some good things through those scripts. And one day I was shooting with these, just for Yash Raj, Yashji's video division. He liked one of my stories and he said, you make it. And one day I was shooting till very late in Rajkamal Studios. So there was overtime ho gaya. So I told this, my production guy, I said, keep the important guys, inke close-ups lene hai. Baki junior artists ko bolo, they can go. And there was one very, very old man, he must have been in his 70s, who didn't go. और 3 बज गए, मैंने कहा, sir, I went to him, I said, sir, आप क्या कर रहे हो? थक गए होगे, please go. He said, sir, नहीं, मैं आपकी वजह से नहीं रुका. ये बलराज साहनी प्रोडक्शन है, इसके नाम की वजह से रुका हूँ. और वो इसलिए क्योंकि आप तो ब्रदर ब्रदर बोलते रहते हैं सबको. वो वाकई हमारे ब्रदर थे. I said, please explain. He said, देखो ऐसा था, हम लोग शूटिंग कर रहे थे. In those days there was no AC, and we had to wear jackets sometimes.
That time there was no AC.
Yeah. And after shots, the junior artists were supposed to stay back on the set and not take off their jackets. But the stars were supposed to take off their jackets and sit in front of the fans. But they noticed that Dad had not taken off his jacket. And the assistant came several times to tell him, Sari Saab, aap utar dijiye coat, garmi ho rahi hai. पसीने आ रहे हैं आपको? He ultimately didn't say anything for a couple of minutes, and then he said, देखो, अगर मुझे पसीने आ रहे हैं तो इन जूनियर आर्टिस्ट के साथ क्या हो रहा है? इन्होंने सब ने कोट पहने हुए हैं. Sir, that is not allowed. इनको तो ऑर्डर है कि इनको पहन के रखने पड़ेंगे. देखो फिर हम भी पहन के रखेंगे. It is only when the director came and told these guys, okay, take off your jackets, that he took off his jacket. So that old man said, वो हमारे भाई थे. आप तो ऐसे ही बोलते रहते हैं. And he had that innate love for not just humanity, yes, but also for, the underdog.
And the way he respected the script and the director. And Amitabh, I think you have followed that same philosophy in your career, that you have not, in spite of the stature that you have, you never tried to tell the director what to do or tried to deviate from the script. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that the essence of every film is what comes out of the writer's pen, and I think that needs to be respected. I also believe that he's the one who designs an entire film. He thinks of the characters, he thinks how they should dress, he decides how they will say their lines, he decides the location as to where it's going to be. And I'm sure that this is in conjunction with the director, but if he has gone through so much trouble to do that, I don't think I have any right, if I'm a professional and if I've agreed contractually to follow what the director is going to ask me to do, then I should follow the writer. That they are the most important people in every film. And I just do it out of my respect and regard for the writer. As Balraj was saying, you have the story. Once it's written, I do believe that is final. If you have a difference, yes, you sit before going onto the set. But once you're in front of the camera, then you don't argue. You just do what is asked of you to do.
But suppose, with your experience, you find that the script could be improved or the shot could be taken in another way, would you not have a friendly word with the director?
I would, yes, but I would leave the final decision to him.
But you would never take over directing as some of our stars have done, surreptitiously.
I'm just about learning how to act. I can't direct at all.
Do you believe in method acting?
Yeah, I really don't know. Parikshit and me are on the same plane. I really don't know what method acting is. But I hear a lot of people saying that, and I hear a lot of people reading books about it. And I have to admit that in one of my sequences, I did try it as a result of an influence after reading these books. And it was fatal. I mean, I was to come exhausted. I don't know if any of you have seen one of my films called Diwar. There's a fight sequence in the garage, and after the fight is over, he comes out exhausted and walks to a tap, and he cools himself down. Now, the action sequence was done in Rajkamal's studio, and where he comes out of the garage was at the Bombay port, one of these gates, and that was after about 6 months. So in order to recreate that kind of look and atmosphere and exhaustion, I thought, I needed to prepare myself. So there were about 8, blocks of these, I don't know what you call them, where they store all this stuff. And it's about a mile down the road. So I kept running up and down, and by the time he said action, I actually collapsed because I couldn't stand up even. So that's as far as, method acting is goes. And then I read about this famous incident between Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman. Where he did something similar. And when he was exhausted, Laurence Olivier said, buddy, why don't you try acting instead of, running up and down? So everyone has their different interpretation, Parikshit. I can't understand.
I believe that Sir John Gielgud has very correctly said, Sir John Gielgud, great actor, he has said there is no such thing as a method. Every actor has his own method. We all evolve our own methods of acting, But this thing about method acting is, I don't think there is.
I was once spent some time with Dilip Saab, and he was narrating an equally, almost a funny incident. He was with an actor, and he said, the actor came to me and said, "Sir, आप ये जब कोई नाराज होते हैं तब आपकी आंखें लाल कैसे हो जाती हैं? क्या क्या डालते हैं आप उनके?" तो दिलीप सर ने कहा, "मैं कुछ नहीं करता हूँ, थोड़ी देर ऐसे बेंड कर जाता हूँ और खून जो है वो आंख में चला जाता है, उसके बाद मैं खड़ा हो जाता हूँ और आंख लाल हो जाती है." तो दिस कैरेक्टर सेड, "यार ये तो फैंटास्टिक आइडिया है." So just before his shot, he went down, when we got up, he fainted. Fell down. So everyone has their own ideas of how they should, prepare for a scene or do what they want to do. The blood had rushed in all the wrong places.
But you feel that Balraj ji actually did this for every role, right? He got into the character very deeply. He didn't just act. Though there's nothing to denigrate that. I mean, that's another method. But he got into the character. I remember seeing the shooting of Gandhi, Richard Attenborough's, when Ben Kingsley was playing the role. And throughout the day when they were shooting, he stayed in the character of Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, including the posture and everything. So even when the shot was finished, and he had to wait 2 hours for the next shot, and maybe he's having a cup of tea or something, but he would stay in character. And I suppose some people do that. But you think it helps acting?
I don't know. I mean, I've never spoken to people who practice the art, but this is what I do. I just follow Dilip Saab. Go down. Come up with my eyes red. That's about it. But yes, there are several people who, must be going through a lot of ideas and thoughts and how to get into the character. There was this film, I think it was called 9 Hours to Rama, which was on the assassination of Mahatma Ji, which was eventually banned in India. And there was a character that was playing the role of Godse, and he had just one shot in the film. He had to come and just fire, and that's it. And this guy was from America. He was an Indian who settled in America, and he came, and we happened to know the family he was living with, and they came and said, "We have an actor in the house, he's come from America, and he's playing this very important role." And I said, "Yeah, I'd like to meet him." कि जी वो 1 महीने से कमरे के अंदर उसने अपने आप को बंद कर दिया है। तो उन्होंने कहा, "क्यों बंद किया?" क्योंकि वो सोच रहा है कि खड़ा होकर के ये बंदूक कैसे चलाएगा। So there are a lot of different stories, of people who practice all kinds of different things. But whether it's worth it or not, I really don't know. Maybe they have a style and method which works. I haven't tried it, and I'm okay.
Hello, I would like to express my happiness and joy to be here with Mr. Bachchan and Mrs. Bachchan. I'm Piyu Sarkar, a scriptwriter, actress. I have a question that goes that it's a very meaningful message that's coming with the book, The Non-Conformist. And what is that thing that was always there in yourself, in your spiritual level, in your realism, that you wanted to express from your childhood, and that as an author, you feel that today you have been able to? I guess that is the true spiritual endeavor of all authors. If you can please enlighten us with something like that.
I really didn't get the question, ma'am.
Okay.
Briefly,
Yes.
tell me what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
I can't see you in any case.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah.
Yes, hi. My question to you is, as an author, in your deep senses, all of the authors, they want to express themselves, their spiritual sense, and they feel very content after they do it. So that is one thing I would like to know, that what is it that have you been able to do that in this book all through? And if yes, then what? And if no, then what is the next book you would like to approach?
Well, ma'am, this book was like a redemption. Because, to be very frank, I have this very guilty conscience of not being a very good son. And as I grew older, I realized what a great dad he was.
True.
And I had to get it off my chest. That's the general idea when one writes. It's a kind of a catharsis.
Mm-hmm. Catharsis, exactly.
That's kind of a catharsis. It's a kind of a redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And it was to find peace within my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this thing I read about Shivaji
Mm-hmm.
is not fiction, it's a fact.
It's a fact. True. True.
It shows what sort of a guy I was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, getting a paunch and hogging away to glory when I was playing that role,
Mm-hmm.
compared to him. So this is a kind of a redemption for me.
Depths, yes, yes, yes.
Come to peace with myself.
Yes, exactly. And that's really inspiring for me.
That's one question. Now we
Yes.
go to the next one. Yes.
I actually disagree with what Parikshit just said, because it goes contrary to what I said earlier on. मेरे बेटे होने से मेरे उत्तराधिकारी नहीं होंगे,
Kind of you, brother.
जो मेरे उत्तराधिकारी होंगे,
Very kind of
मेरे
you,
बेटे
but
होंगे.
I have.
आपने ये किताब लिख करके पूरा कर दिया उनका काम, और आपने सही मानों में एक बेटे की तरह, because there are many things we would never have known, and that's why I feel that you are a true son of your father.
So Amitabh, can we expect a book from you?
No, I would do great injustice to the writing profession if I wrote one.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, brother, we should keep differing with each other.
I read his blogs every day, and I suggest that all of you do that. He writes them after midnight, sometimes at 1 o'clock, sometimes at 2 o'clock, but they're all, each one of the blogs I read is like a piece of literature.
No, that I can't even say that he's drunk because he's left drinking, but this is not correct, and please don't go there, for Christ's sake.
Okay, I'll add my 2 bits. Amitabh very kindly launched a book I'd written, and the speech he gave he spoke for about 45 minutes. It was so brilliant that the editor of the Times of India rang me up and said, can we print the whole speech, which the Times of India did. So your modesty is unbecoming. Okay, since no one is asking a question, I will ask. Oh, okay.
I think
Can someone get a
I'll
mic
go
there?
ahead.
You don't need a mic, you can just
just
scream.
Yeah,
My question is for Mr. Bachchan. Which performance of Mr. Sahni did you like the best and why?
You know, there's such a vast repertoire that it's very difficult to name one, but Do Bigha Zameen, Kabuli Wala, Waqt, and an incredible performance in Garam Hawa. I thought that was the absolute ultimate performance that he gave.
Thank you, Parikshit, for being here and for writing this really, really wonderful tribute to your father.
Can I just...
And let me also thank Amitabh Bachchan, whose presence has elevated this evening.
Anil, just 1 minute. Can I just narrate a story that we shared together? I mean, it wasn't meant to be shared together, but we did it, if you don't mind.
Please, please.
When you were talking about what you felt when these hefties came and took you off, and you were, stuck between this, and you didn't know what was going to happen, and you were scared. I'm reminded of, you don't have to write those expressions, because I've seen those expressions on you. Parikshit and me and several others were working in a film called Desh Premi, and it was in a slum area which was erected, and there were many, huge stars, Shami Kapoor, Prem Nath, Sharmila Tagore, everyone. And every time the scene would be over, we would all sit under one temporary roof, and we used to sit and chat. And, sorry brother, this is confidential. Manmohan Desai was the director of the film, and a few of us, junior assistants, decided that we need to, get brother out of... He was always very sort of serious, sitting around in one corner, and hardly communicate with anyone. And he thought that, he's come from Russia, he's learned this method acting, so probably he's into that zone. So we needed to get him out of that. So we devised something, and there was a junior artist who was a fantastic actor. So he started acting drunk on set. And I'll have to enact this a bit. So he would come very close to where this group of actors of us used to be sitting, and he used to come holding on to the table, and he would look at brother. And brother would look at him and say, yeah, fine. Then he would, and look very threateningly at, Parikshit. So Parikshit was getting a little, kya yaar, kaun hai? Kuch nahi, the poor chap is drunk and all that. So next day again, this guy would come from another part of the set, and from there he's only looking at Parikshit. Now this went on for about a week. By now Parikshit is getting really worried. I said, why are you worrying, brother? He said, no, brother, I was driving home and I was stopping at the signal and this guy was there looking at me. I think something's wrong with him. So then we enacted a whole scenario where we called this guy, said, kya kar raha tu? Usko do teen chapal mare wo. It was all fake. He fell down and brother was a little relieved and all that. And then we said, it's not probably happening. So on the last day, this guy came up and we gave him a little fake knife. And we took out the knife and brother, he said, yeah, look, I said, this has gone too much now. And then brother decided to actually go up to him and whack him before we stopped him and told him that this was all an enactment just to scare you and get you out of your...
I asked you for your pistol, yeah.
Yeah, he asked me for my gun. Absolutely.
Stop. I said, bang, banduk mara, meri jaan khatre mein. He was laughing, yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Unexpected bit of acting.
But that was the expression I had on my face. Is absolutely.
He was scared as hell. I mean, he said, "Kaun hai yaar, ye aadmi dekhta rehta hai mujhe aise." Yaar, pagal hai, usko chhod do. Then next day again, this guy would come exactly in front of Pradeep. So he's going to, get him. And brother was really worried.
I was worried, sick, yeah, I asked you for a gun. That's why I would have.
So I can understand your expression when you were being whisked away to this place.
Thank you so much. I think our panelists deserve a huge round of applause.